Is diet. And with diet, as I said, the anti-inflammatory diet's a good starting point. The anti-inflammatory diet basically consists of fresh fruits, raw, organic vegetables and fruits. I did a talk over at Grady last night about weight management. We talked about diet, and there was a lady there that she grew her own vegetables and had her own garden and was talking about organic fruits and vegetables, and she said that a lot of companies now are calling their products organic, but in fact, they're actually using pesticides. So you always need to make sure you ask. So I'm sure the federal government says you can use X number of pesticides and still call it organic, kind of like they do trans fats. If you could have, I think, 5 grams or 5 milligrams of trans fat in a food product and still call it zero trans fat. Always better to ask the questions. Eating colorful plants is important. Fibers are so important for everything in our body. And there's a list of fiber foods on this particular form on your handout. Because people ask me about soluble versus insoluble fibers. Fiber is good for weight loss. It's good to help detoxify your system. It helps to cleanse your system. It helps prevent cancers. It helps clean your intestines. It helps reduce blood sugar. It helps reduce cholesterol. It does a lot of really good things for you. But the soluble fibers, just to go off onto a tangent real quick, when you eat a soluble fiber, when it gets into your gut, it basically turns into a mucus-type substance. And what it does, it actually bonds itself to sugars. It bonds itself to fats. So it helps prevent those sugars and fats from getting into your bloodstream. So if you have high cholesterol, you have high blood sugar, make sure you're eating plenty of soluble fibers. The insoluble fibers are important because they act like a broom. They clean your intestines out. They also give you nice, good, healthy, thick, solid stools. And so it's important to eat both because they both have a different purpose, different function, but both are necessary for good health.
So it's like they have jar, like Bura, they say it looks like powder, fiber, that's good.
Read the label. That's the other thing too, good point. Is always whenever you read the front label of something, turn it around and read the back label. And see what kind of soft fibers are in it, because you don't want to take just insoluble, you don't want to take just soluble. You want a combination of both fibers. That's imperative. So if you're taking Metamucil or beneficial or whatever, that's a dog food, isn't it? Beneficial. You gotta check that out. I don't know if there's any fiber in the dog.
That for salad is good, right? That powder.
Well, check on the powder. Make sure it has these 2 kinds of fibers in it. Read on the back and see if any of these foods are inside that powder. But you can get fibers with both, or you can take them in capsules. It helps. There are supplements also that contain soluble and insoluble fibers. They're on the bottom of this sheet as well. We won't get into those because we're pinched for time. So you can read those on your own. Drinking plenty of water is another simple, natural thing you can do. We've talked before about, not just drinking 6 or 8 glasses of water is important, but the new standard or the new formula is take your body weight, divide by 2. That's the number of ounces of fluid you should ingest a day. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you should drink 50 ounces of fluid a day. 80% of that should be water. So you can blend a little coffee in it, Jim, or whatever you do in the morning. Of course, eating foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids. I was asked last night, well, if there were 3 supplements I should take, which should I take? I said, you should take a multivitamin, you should take a multi-mineral, you should take omega-3 fatty acids. So omega-3 fish oil, extremely important. It's important for your entire body. It reduces inflammation, reduces blood cholesterol level, reduces blood sugar level, improves brain function, improves your memory, and it does a dozen other things. So it also helps reduce depression, anxiety, and a lot of other mood-type disorders. Don't eat sugar. Sugar is like poison to our bodies. High fructose corn syrup, the ultimate poison in our life right now. High fructose corn syrup, you need to read labels. High fructose corn syrup, at first glance, almost looks like table sugar because it's made of 1 molecule of glucose, 1 molecule of fructose. And if you look at high fructose corn syrup, same thing as table sugar. 1 molecule of glucose, 1 molecule of fructose. But the bonds between those, one's a disaccharide bond and one's a monosaccharide bond. So what happens when you ingest table sugar, it actually breaks apart, so your body can ingest the glucose for energy, and the fructose goes into your liver and gets transformed into some other products. But high fructose corn syrup gets into your bloodstream, doesn't break apart. So what happens is your body's got a sugar in it. It doesn't tell the brain there's a sugar in it, so the body doesn't tell insulin you need to drive that sugar into the cell. So what happens is that high fructose corn syrup causes inflammation in the blood vessels, but it gets stored as fat. So if you want to get fat, eat a lot of high fructose corn syrup. And since in the 80s, when high fructose corn syrup was introduced into our society, the incidence of childhood obesity is just skyrocketing. I don't remember all the stats. We went through statistics last night, but huge. So you need to start reading labels, and it's surprisingly scary how many foods have high fructose corn syrup in it. Because high fructose corn syrups increase the shelf life of any food that it's in. It's a super sweet sweetener. It prevents freezer burn in food. It makes breads nice and brown and crusty on the outside and soft on the inside. But it's just bad news in terms of what it does to sugar metabolism, but what it does to your brain as well.
How about diet sugar?
Which kind of diet sugar? Like aspartame or some of those artificial sweeteners?
Equal.
Which one is equal, yellow or pink or blue?
Yellow, blue.
I tell you right now, what I would do, right now, I would recommend you eat stevia.
Yeah, that's a new one.
It's new, and now in 6 months from now, they're going to tell us probably researchers that's causing cancer too. But as I speak right now, I think that's your best sweetener that you can go with. But stay away from saccharin, aspartame, and whatever, sucralose and whatever else they're like.
If you read your labels
I have to
and
read my
everything,
thing.
you'll find that sucrose is very first after water.
In a lot of foods.
Everything.
Right. And the bad thing about sucrose, eating sugar, the more you eat, the more you want. Because blood sugar levels start to go crazy. They're up and they're down. They're up and they're down. They're up and they're down. And the more you eat, the more you want to eat because your body's trying to constantly, always maintain normal blood sugar levels. Let's see, liquid processed sugar like processed fruit juice, bad deal. Sugar alcohol, bad deal. Artificial sweeteners, we talked about, bad deal. Trans fats and hydrogenated fats, read the labels. Those are bad. Those are very, very hard fats. And most of our body needs glucose for energy. Our heart, though, uses glucose for energy, but also fat. So there's almost a direct pipeline from our gut up to our heart. And these trans fats and hydrogenated fats are very, very stiff, hard fats. And they actually nick blood vessel walls. They cause inflammation in blood vessels, which can cause more plaque in blood vessels, more atherosclerosis, and more heart disease. So start staying away from these guys. They're bad news. Of course, fried foods are bad. And of course, you should limit your caffeine and alcohol. And you'll see on this anti-inflammatory diet, you can actually drink a glass of red wine every night. Well, red wine, because of resveratrol, it actually is anti-inflammatory. Caffeine, if you drink caffeine, drink 1 or 2 a day. Don't drink more than that. So at least control that to some degree.
What's the difference between alcohol and sugar alcohol?
Sugar alcohols, you'll find those in a lot of low carbohydrate type foods. And they say, the manufacturers say that these are not actually sugars and they are not absorbed into your bloodstream. So it just stays in your large intestine. I don't know if I believe that or not, based on some of the other studies that I've read. So it's just an ingredient you'll see in a low carb product with a sweetener. But it's supposedly not absorbed into your bloodstream. But I don't know if I buy that or not. What time is it? Oh, good. Nutritional therapy. What kind of foods can we eat? Again, we talked about EPA and DHA, which is in fish oil. You can eat flax if you like to eat flax, but flax has 2 chemical reactions that flax has to go through in the body to be broken down to EPA and DHA, which is the therapeutic part of the oils that make you healthy. So if you want the best bang for your buck, eat fish oil. Phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylcholine, all increase neurotransmitter activity in your brain. They increase the body's ability to absorb those neurotransmitters, so you get a positive effect as well. Amino acids are important. We talked about B6, B12, and folate before. Vitamin D is extremely important for brain function. And as we've talked before about, vitamin D actually chemically is a hormone in our body and the way it affects our body. It triggers a lot of different reactions in our body. So if you're not eating any vitamin D and you live in Ohio, you should, take extra or supplemental vitamin D. Vitamin D has also been shown to reduce depression. Vitamin D I consider to be sunshine in a capsule. And when we have these gray, rainy winters and springs that we have in Ohio, you should supplement with vitamin D. I think